we should cover it. In any event details, kind of think the basics of who, what, when, where, why, and just kind of answer those for us in a way. Usually if you make our job easier, we'll kind of like make your job easier. So we'll just automatically kind of give you coverage, because we'll be like, oh, it's right there. We can go ahead and do that for you. And then before I continue on, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Or if you want to just chime in, feel free. So I just want to make sure before I continue. And then also for number 2, just like opportunities for visuals, like make sure you say that in the press release, because nothing gives us better time than knowing as a TV reporter that I can go ahead and just get to the location and be able to take video. Or if for print reporters, just having like photo opportunities as well is key, because it gives us an opportunity to pitch that to our editor, and there'll be a higher chance that we'll cover your event. For number 3, include a couple of quotes from either an event organizer or person at the organization. This is really great what I've learned in print reporting, because what we can do is just take your press release. We already have quotes. We don't need to bug you anymore. Or if you're an artist as well, just give us like, you know, what you would think a quote would be. Or if you really want us to give you a call for any quote opportunities, just tell us the best way to contact you. Because unfortunately, we can't really publish something without quotes. It would just kind of be too much of a copy and paste, and we want to have something from you, you know, to give our readers. And then if you don't have this, just know that we're probably going to call you for an interview and bug the heck out of you. So if you make our job easier, we can go ahead and do that. And then at number 4, at the end, just summary of your organization and who you are. A lot of us do come into these markets not knowing anything about the city. It could be our first day and we happen to just get your email. And if we don't know who you are as an artist, and, you know, maybe you've been here for like 40 years in the community, you know, we'd like to get caught up. I think that was really helpful in my first years of reporting, were the people who would take the time to just have a quick summary at the end of who they were, either their organization or what they're trying to accomplish in the community. So again, we can just be on the same page, and I'm not really wondering how long you've been here, and we can both get off to a great start. Number 5, include like any visuals you may already have. So this is like photos, videos, again, things that make our life easier. It also gives a great light to your story if people can see, whether you're talking about a mural or you're talking about, you know, a certain theater performance, you know, it makes our life easier. And that way we also can give you credit to whoever you want us to give it to. It's not like we're going to take your photo. So if you can just specifically tell us who to give credit to, that would be wonderful. And then that way you guys can, you know, get the visuals that you want out there. And then we can also have our readers more likely click on the story. That's usually encouraged in our computer program where we have all of our stories in. It kind of buzzes at us if we don't have a visual. So if we have that, then we can go ahead and not have that thing buzzing at us like 20 times a day. But I'll stop there. Those are the key 5 things that you should have in your press release. Does anyone have any questions or something that I should kind of elaborate on?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the press releases, they're sent out for if we're trying to get it published in print or your online publisher, and that's also for like radio or any other media. Is that just for anything?
Definitely, yeah, for radio too. So I don't know if you mentioned before, but also for my podcast, I'm always looking for different ways like that. So if you just have like almost anything, even when you get a podcast, or if you're going in for a radio interview, you still want to have those visuals as well. So just make sure you cover it 3 ways, because once we do publish the podcast, we want to be able to have, again, that thing not beep at us when we, you know, you don't have a visual. So even when you think, oh, it's just going to be my voice, they don't need to, you know, they don't need anything else. We actually do, to be able to put that online and have people click on it. All right, anybody else? All right, we're gonna get to the big one, the big 10, the do's and don'ts of an interview. And also I wanted to see if anyone has had, any TV interviews that they wanted to, maybe could I do better in this, or, or have any of them coming up. So if you do want to chime in at all, kind of just stop me, if you will. But I'll start with number one, do prep for your interview. This includes having any data that you'd like to include in the coverage. Again, making our life easier. If you want to cite anything when you're talking about things, you may have great points that, go into, if you're either working with like homeless youth. I did a story recently. And then, oh yes, perfect questions. So then that way, artists work with homeless youth. Sometimes I did a story on that today. If you happen to have any data, to back that up, sometimes numbers can be really helpful for readers and viewers to be able to understand why this is so critical in the community. Sometimes those numbers do hit really well with audiences. Like they're like, wow, like, certain number of youth haven't had, this experience. It's so great that it's happening, here in Hillsborough or Forest Grove or wherever you may be, Tiger Tualatin. So yeah. Okay, so from Becky, how does one handle TV interviews gracefully when an anchor misquotes or says something incorrectly? Do you mean like at the point of the interview, or like after the fact, or are you live? I might need more information.
Okay, so I've had, over the years, I've had at least several live interviews, like with Coin, KGW. They're very short interviews where we go to the TV station. It's literally like 3 minutes, which goes by really, really fast. But I've had it where one of the anchors didn't quote correct information, and then because it's so fast paced, they're moving on to the next question or next thing that they're going to say. And so I was just wondering, is there a key on that, or just you just let it go, which I did?
Oh no, I would say definitely correct them. We don't want to be wrong, and you don't want to be wrong in the message that you're putting out to the community. At the end of the day, we are the people that are supposed to give you a voice. So if that voice is incorrect, then definitely let us know. Even if it's a quick tidbit, just be like, hey, I wanted to just go back to one point that you made. It was actually 8%, or the date's actually June 1st. So I just wanted to make sure your viewers would know that, and then just answer their next question. Hopefully that helps.
That did. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Anyone else before I continue? Thank you so much for that question. I know that people can get really nervous too when it's, like you said, super quick and you're just like deer in headlights and you're like, oh no, don't want to seem rude, but that's not being rude at all. Trust me on that. And then number 2, so this is a don't ask for questions beforehand. This can be a big no-no, and this is actually a big no-no because we want to have an organic conversation with you. Sometimes you think that you're going to be one step ahead by having, our questions beforehand, but you end up just sounding like a robot. And I saw this a lot when I was in TV, where, or people just couldn't have a regular conversation. They'd have that deer in headlights moment because they had like this full paragraph because they knew what question it was, and then they kind of just stopped, versus if I would have just given them the question right then and there without having them already knowing it, it would have flowed way better for them, and I would also have better material to work with. So even if you think that you're at an advantage, again, by having our questions beforehand, it's not that we're trying to be shady in any way. It's just that like we're trying to help each other out. But if you do have like possible like topics, that's totally fine, but specific questions can sometimes be a disadvantage. But I'd love to hear people's thoughts about that, if you either disagree with me or have any more questions. Okay, so number 3, I would say don't look at the camera. That's the number 1. This happens either during the interview process where, you kind of know that thing's in the corner, and, it's usually at the side of you. It's like right here when you're being interviewed for TV. Just pretend like it's not there. Look at the reporter. That's usually why they step to the side instead of being behind the lens. And that's all I can really kind of help you with. Just don't look at it. It kind of breaks what we call the fourth wall in film and video, where suddenly the viewer is like, oh God, they're looking at me, versus they're listening to you, and they want to be listening to what's coming out of your mouth. And also that goes for if they're taking video. So let's say that you're working on a mural and you're done with your interview, you're painting your mural, and that they're taking video, just again pretend they're not there. I've had such great shots just ruined by people taking a quick side eye, and I can't use that video anymore, and I have to spend more time there, and then you're there more, just looking at it constantly. So it'll help us both if you don't look at the camera. So at number 4 for TV, don't wear flashy clothes. This also goes for like anything. If it's an event, I don't know, I'll take 4K, for example, usually very flashy t-shirts and things like that. If you can avoid it, don't wear that, and wear more muted colors. The viewer will focus more on what you're saying and your message than on what you're wearing and just looking down. As you said, for TV, it goes by really quick. So you want to get all that time that you can to actually advocate, either for whatever you're doing in the community. So yeah, just try to wear just neutral, kind of more darker colors. I would suggest black, white, navy blue. That's what they taught us in school as well. Usually in springtime, we like to get a little crazy in summer, but if you can avoid it, that'd be best. And I'll stop here for a quick second. Everybody okay? Doing good? All right. And number 5, once you're talking, do pretend like you're talking to someone that you know. Pretend like you're talking to either your mom or your sister or somebody. We are also living in the same community as you. So, again, don't freeze up like a robot. That can be really difficult for TV and also print and radio. For my podcast, sometimes people have, the microphone very in front of them. So they forget that they're talking to me and not the microphone. So I don't know if everyone's like run across that issue, but the way that it helps me when I have a microphone as well is pretending that I'm talking to my mom or my sister, and I can really, be passionate, or be in, like, the way that I enunciate becomes better versus like murmur. So hopefully that helps at all. And I will keep it going. So for number 6, for TV and print, do keep answers to 2 or 3 sentences minimum. Usually, like for TV, we'll cut your interview in chunks. So we'll take at the most 10-second, we call them SOTs. So that'll just be like quick little snippets of what you say. And I have a question from Lisa. Are all those suggestions the same for podcasts and FB Live events? Yes, everything that I'm taking here can be transcended to different kind of mediums. So if you're at a TV, if you're at a print, if you're at a radio, FB Live, all of it. Usually sometimes with FB Live, they'll point the camera right at you, and it's okay to look directly at the camera. But usually if there's somebody to the side, look at them, and they're usually gonna prompt you with that. What was I gonna say here? Yeah, even for FB Lives, I guess for FB Lives, you do want to talk for at least a minimum of 10 minutes. I don't know if you're speaking more for like if you do it yourself. I know that was encouraged when we did that just for the algorithm. You want to be on FB Live for at least 10 minutes to be able to put that at the top of people's feeds. So hopefully that answers that question. If not, let me know. Okay, cool. But I do really want to go into number 6 because I've gotten so many emails from people that I've interviewed saying, we had a 30-minute interview and I only saw 10 seconds of it on TV. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. We only get a certain amount of time. Same thing goes for print. Sometimes our editor says you have X amount of inches to fill, or also for podcasts, you only get 5 to 10 to 30 minutes today. So just kind of realize that that's just the way that it goes. It's very fast paced. And if you do want more time or anything like that, maybe they could do a follow-up once the mural's there, or, the event has already happened, how many people came, things like that, if you do want to get more coverage. But maybe at the point in time, just know that that might be a reality. Okay, so number 7, don't be afraid to get emotional. You worked really hard on this, and it's okay to, I'm not saying like full on cry, but like, unless you really want to, but you're really passionate about something, don't hold back. That usually is what gets people really interested in what you're doing. And I know it might be difficult to open up to somebody that you just met, but some of the best stories that I've covered in multiple communities interviewees is when somebody is, you know, passionate about what they do, and they either have to kind of hold back their voice or you hear it in their throat. It's okay to be emotional. You're human. And, you know, a lot of people do connect with you that way. So either don't feel ashamed to do it, or if you do want to take some time to step away from the interview, that's okay too. Just say, I need a minute or two to myself. But just know that it's okay to feel that way if you're talking about something that you're really passionate about. Okay, so Becky, years ago you said it was an opening day, I almost didn't answer my cell. Luckily I did because it was an Oregon reporter that wanted to do a story. Great. Did like something happen with the Oregonian reporter? Was it like super last minute or super last minute? Yeah, that tends to happen. I was just telling everybody that, you know, right now with what's happening with the pandemic, you know, our hours have been cut, unfortunately, here. And I know that a lot of TV reporters have been on furlough. And, you know, personally, our podcast has been just put on hold. So we don't have enough hours to like call people. I know that with TV, they plan things the day of. I don't know how the Oregonian works, but we usually try and just contact you last minute. But if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. But that's sometimes the way that we operate just because of the way that the industry is going. We're just one man show sometimes, or I guess one woman show. Okay. Anything else, Becky, on that point? Answer yourselves for free publicity. You got that right. You got that very right. Vibrate is a great tool, my friend. Okay, so number 8, don't be afraid to stop and retake a line on camera or over the phone with a reporter, or if your podcast isn't live, feel free to just say like, hey, I didn't really articulate that the way that I wanted to. Would it be okay to take that again? Most likely they'll say yes, unless they're really mean, and I don't see why they should be mean to you. Then yeah, totally ask for something to be retaken. We all sometimes just get lost in the moment, or you're like, what was your question again? And so it's fine to have a better understanding of what you're trying to communicate if you let us know that you want to take something again. So at number 9, don't be afraid to say you don't have the answer or information to something. I usually really appreciate it from public information officers or artists that I am, you know, interviewing, when they tell me, oh, I actually don't know what time that's at, or, you know, I don't have the certain, you know, statistic that you requested, you know, I'll email it to you. That's usually the best way to go about something. So don't feel ashamed if you don't know anything. We just probably wanted something cited or wanted to get a little bit more information. So number 10, don't do an interview alongside someone else, such as another colleague for TV. This makes the angle really awkward and wide. You might feel better having someone alongside of you, but it ends up looking terrible on TV, and that's just the way that it goes. Great for podcasts though, because you can't see, and obviously fine for print. But usually TV, you want to avoid that at all costs. So that was number 10, and I'll stop right there before I continue to the bonus round. Right. Well, thanks for being this far with me. Yes, go for it.
So question about one of the things that you mentioned was maybe the reporter would do a follow-up. How is it generally likely that a publisher will do a follow-up to a story? Or does that just depend on how catchy the next press release is?
Yeah, that kind of depends on if it's worth, we call it worth a follow-up. So it would have to be something that's developing. So I have murals on the membrane for some reason. So if it's a mural, we talked about how it's going up, and, you know, we talked with the artist, we got the drawings initially, but now it's up. You know, it wouldn't hurt to just be like, hey, it's now here, I took some pictures, here's some video, or would you like to go down there? I can have the artist go over it again, or have somebody else. Usually if it's like something that's visual or just worthy of following up. I'm trying to think if there's, I hope that answers your question.
It does, yeah.
Anybody else? All right. I'll try to be quick so you can enjoy that sun. Okay, so bonus interview for Zoom interview. So Lighting is everything. Right now, as you can probably see from the reflection of my glasses, I'm actually next to a window. Windows are great. I actually took a lighting class in college, which helps with my Zoom interviews sometimes. So as you can see, half of my face is lit, the other half is not, and then I have a crisp little light going on the side of my head. If you don't want to get that technical, just know that you want to be by the light. Usually not a fluorescent lighting, but you want to be like, you know, just next to a window light, get that natural lighting in, and then it won't seem like you're, like you said, was it in a basement? Yes, in a basement. Okay. Anybody have questions on lighting? No. Okay, I'll go to number 2. So try to have your camera eye level on you. Try not to be looking down or up. You can even stack books. Right now you can't tell, but I have a blanket, another blanket, then I have a pillow to be able to try to make it so I'm semi-eye level with you. We usually try to have that when we're interviewing people with cameras, and that's so we either don't look inferior or don't look superior to your viewers. So you definitely don't want to look inferior if you are doing a Zoom like with Coin or anything like that, and you're looking, you know, they're looking either down at you, and you don't want to look superior if you're looking up at you. You want to maintain neutral. So you probably want to do that if you're going from a Zoom interview. Any questions on that? No, okay. Another thing that I commonly see is people using headphones on Zoom interviews. I guess this is just for me a pet peeve, but I feel like you would look a lot better if you didn't have like just stringy things, because then I get distracted and then I can't like know what you're saying. Like I can't focus on your mouth, and I'm guessing that's something that obviously we hadn't dealt in journalism school, but you know, I'm more focused on the strings coming out of your ears than I am on your mouth. So if you can avoid using headphones. Ooh, what about backgrounds? Yes. So my background's pretty muted right now. I can't hang up things in walls in my bedroom, part of my lease. But if you can, I think, yeah, so Razia has great, if you can see her, has great background. Love it. Love it. Ashley too, I see something in the back. Yes. Great. And try to have some depth too. So if you can, try to lay it as a corner. If I turned my thing, I would be kind of against a flat wall. Try to just have that angle so there's some depth to you and you don't look flat. So that way you can look a little bit better. Even if it is like a blank wall, try to do your best to be able to create that depth. Okay, so that's pretty much all of my stuff. I just kind of went very fast through that. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, I would be more than happy to answer them, or any thoughts that you may have.
Yeah, we had a couple of guests enter our webinar just a few minutes late. So I want to give them an opportunity to chime in with questions if they missed something at the very, very, very beginning. Looks like we have a question in the chat from Barbara. Can you talk about sound quality, especially for Zoom?
Yeah, I haven't really come across sound quality. The only thing I can think about is headphones again, if they're pressed. If you do have like that, those headphones and then that microphone too that hangs right here, what'll happen sometimes that it'll come near your hair and then you'll get that crackly kind of thing, and that comes from most microphones. So you want to again avoid headphones in general so you can avoid that crackly sound. I've heard it when I'm watching Coin or K2 or whatever, and they try their best to be able to do that, but again, it's just at your advantage to just avoid that. Usually microphones, internal microphone on your computer is pretty good. I'm guessing you guys can hear me pretty well right now. So yeah, I think that would probably be best. I don't know about AirPods. Those are pretty sneaky. I think you could get away with those, but not the string headphones. Yeah. Best style of mic. Probably just like your internal. If your internal isn't great, then you could probably order one on Amazon. Just maybe the one that's kind of like what do they call them? Like those microphones that are like here. I think of like Britney Spears, you know, when she had that microphone situation there. So maybe one of those I think would be fine. A little distracting. Yeah, but I think those would be okay. Or wireless Bluetooth headphones that you can just stick in, because those will just automatically catch your voice right there and you'll be okay. Cool. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I have another question. So my position now is director with Tualatin Valley Creates, but I had a position as a marketing director with a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I found was really important down at the museum was having special opportunities to thank my media partners, to invite them in to have like one-on-one conversations with the curators before the show opened. What are things that you like or your colleagues like to make sure that we're appreciative of what you're doing to help tell our stories?
Yeah, definitely. That stuff helps all the time. I think it takes the pressure off for both of us if we can go in a little bit before the interview to just show us around if we do have time. That can be kind of stressful right now because we don't. Or sometimes just sharing the links, I think, is very great. And I think that goes a lot farther, you know, is just sharing the work, because I think both parties at the end benefit from that. And we feel so thankful when we get to see that on a Facebook page, you know, and tagging our, either for us, it's like Pamplin, or if you tagged my like professional Facebook, you know, it really goes a long way to be able to then communicate with other people out in the community. So yeah, props to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the relationships I was able to build with my media partners around that area, that region, and to just, you know, say, hey, come in, get comfortable with our museum. This is what we do. You're, like you said earlier in the beginning, was, you know, we're all people of the same community. So let me show you more behind the scenes. But that was a lot of fun to share that with them.
Yeah, I think people end up being more comfortable and more open to covering things too, versus if you shut us out until the moment that you need us sort of situation, versus like having a cup of coffee or, you know, just strolling around the area. I think that that really takes the, I think for me, the ease off, because then I'm like, okay, we're both people just having a conversation. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, are there any other questions around the digital room via the chat, or for some of our guests who are called in?
Lisa, okay. I heard you're supposed to answer the interview's question by restating the question. Is that true? Yes, that is so true. That's really, really helpful. Just think of it like, instead of what's your favorite color, instead of just saying blue, say my favorite color is blue. It helps with editing too, to be able to catch those really great answers that you're giving us. And then at the same time, you usually expand beyond that. You automatically kind of add a why. So if you want to, I know we're not supposed to ask like yes or no questions, but even if we do, it's kind of implied that you would say yes because instead of just like yes. I've encountered that actually with little kids, interviewing little kids. It's always so hard because I try to ask them questions and they're just like yes, no. So just try to like avoid that as much as possible, and restating is a great way to do that. Actually, I had the Jeopardy music.
They need to add that to Zoom, like a little soundtrack button that everybody can hear at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Or Jeopardy. I love Jeopardy. It's on Netflix. I highly recommend.
Well, let's have Ashley. You want to unmute your mic?
Actually, I think we have one more question from Rick Paulson, if that's okay.
Yep.
Any advice on publishing recorded Zoom interviews? I mean, I know that when it comes to recorded Zoom interviews, I don't know if the quality is great. Sometimes things can go really bad when it comes to having recorded, I believe this one's recording right now, Zoom interviews, because sometimes things can be off, but you can publish them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know that when we have to record a Zoom interview just for like our own purposes, whether it be for TV or for print or anything, we do have to ask you if we can record this interview. So, even if journalists don't ask, just be like, hey, remember, you got to do that. I think that's good, ethics to keep us on what we're supposed to do. But just publishing recorded Zoom interviews, I don't think there's anything bad with that. And I know we do it right now because of what's going on. But let me know if you need any kind of clarification.
I can go ahead and hop in with the few upcoming events and announcements for Tualatin Valley Creates. For anyone who wasn't here earlier, I'm the Communications and Program Manager at TVC. And if you like this workshop, hopefully you'll consider joining us for some of our upcoming workshops. We have one on June 9th, which is how to talk about your work, and one on June 11th, which is part of our COVID-19 informational series for artists, which is called Planning for Budget Deficits. And that one is free. You can also check out, we have some really great upcoming virtual networking events for the creative industry. We have one on June 17th where we're going to show people a live stream tour of the Tigard Outdoor Museum. So if you haven't heard of that project yet, go to our website and check it out. And lastly, you can get these events and a lot of other opportunities and grants by signing up for our e-news. So you can go to tvcreates.org/subscribe and get all that info into your inbox, which is much easier than trying to remember it all. And also, if you don't follow us on social media, check it out at Tualatin Valley Creates. We're running a digital showcase right now of the graduates of our Arts and Culture Leadership Incubator, which is 5 days of the 5 artists who are graduating and highlighting all of their awesome work. So I would encourage you to check it out. You can also follow it #TVCreates. I'll pass it back to Razieh if you have any closing thoughts.
Well, I want to just thank you, Gabby, for giving us this cheat sheet, how to interview on TV and radio. I think, as one of our guests, Jennifer, had said earlier, and a few of our guests via chat, that they've had some opportunities to be interviewed, but maybe felt a little awkward going into it. So having all of these literally bullet points and cheat sheet elements is going to make it so much easier moving forward to be able to share our stories and build these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so great. I've been here, I think, for 6 months out in the community, so it's great to finally meet more people. Yeah, all right.
So I'd like to, just a reminder to all our guests, as Ashley was saying, there's lots of links and resources for some of the other programs that we're doing. And that if you have any questions, feel free to email us via TVC. So that's info@tvcreates.org, and we can get you in touch with Gabby too if you want to do any follow-up questions or anything with Gabby. So thank you all, and we will see you at the next webinar.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.